Welcome back to American Made Classics, and today we are again working on one of the daily drivers. The girlfriend's Jeep Cherokee is back in the shop, needs more work. What else is a frickin' surprise? She's complaining of it running kind of rough and a few other things, and I think the first thing we're going to do is give it a tune-up. So here we go. So the first thing I did was got in it and I just kind of took it around the block, and definitely is running a little rough. Kind of seems like it has a miss, idling a little rough. Another thing I noticed, it's got a bunch of splatter all over here, but that could be from when we flushed the radiator. Not quite sure. Don't really care. Well, I'll probably end up caring later, but for now I don't really care. First thing we're going to try to do is just give it a good old-fashioned tune-up. And I got that right here. Got this off the good old-fashioned Rock Auto website. And it even says right on it, Jeep 4.0. So you can't go wrong with that. That should maybe solve our problems. We're going to give it a shot. And I also bought some spark plugs. And I decided to splurge a little bit with the Champion 3412 Platinum. That's splurging. Definitely splurging. So we'll see if that helps with the shakiness this thing's been having. Definitely has a little bit of a miss. You can definitely tell when you're just sitting at an idling at a stoplight, in drive. Thing definitely, you can just feel it. It kind of feels like it, like the car actually kind of lurches because it's just like almost about to stall. So I think the safest thing to do is just give her a good old tune-up. Because I wouldn't be surprised if these are the original spark plugs and distributor cap and rotor. I just wouldn't be surprised. Car has 119,000 miles, so who knows what we'll find. But we'll find out, so let's get at it. So the first thing we've got to do is get rid of some of this excess crap that's in the way, preventing us from reaching spark plugs, like this. All right, now that I got some of that stuff out of the way, now we have better access to the spark plugs and the spark plug wires and the distributor cap and rotor, all that good stuff. Essentially what I removed was the accelerator pedal cable, the cruise control cable that comes up, and whatever the heck the last one is, but all the cables, and I removed the upper radiator hose, and the radiator hose is going over to the heater core. So it gives us much better access to this area now. So now what I'm going to do is remove each spark plug one at a time, take off each wire, and I'm actually going to place them over there, and I'm going to place them all by, in order, 1 through 6, each spark plug 1 through 6, and we'll also make sure we look at each spark plug and just kind of see the condition of it. So then once we get that far, then we will we'll put in the new distributor cap and rotor while everything is out of the way. So with that said, let's get to it. All right, after getting all the plugs and the wires out, pretty sure I found the problem why this car was having a misfire. That just does not look healthy. That would be cylinder number 3, I believe. Let's see, we'll count around here. This is cylinder 1, 2. So cylinder 2 would have to believe that's where that misfire and that harshness was coming from. Let's go look at the plugs themselves, and honestly, they look pretty good. Maybe not gapped 100% correctly, but the wires are most likely original from the factory. But I had one of them actually break off on cylinder 6 just because it's so freaking hard to get to. But yeah, they definitely don't look gapped correctly. Anyway, stay. So anyway, cannot stress the importance enough. Just cannot. Gotta put dielectric grease on your terminals. Otherwise, that happens. And man, that stuff, it just might seem like an extra step and who really cares type of thing, but believe me, it's important. Otherwise, things like that will happen. Corrosion will find its way into there. So now we're going to get the cap taken off in the rotor and we'll get that replaced. Got 2 screws on both sides of the distributor cap and it should pop right off. Well, this tells me just about everything I need to know. See if we can get you in there. It is just beat to crap. Those terminals are very corroded and it's been arcing pretty bad. Like, this is a fine example of just worn out components. So yep, this is exactly what this car needed, was a tune-up. Another thing that I could have been was the injectors could have been misfiring or a bad injector. But these are brand new injectors I put in about 3 years ago when I had first got the car, because frankly it was running like super crap and I figured it needed new injectors, and it sure as heck did. So if you're looking at this from your point of view, could be injectors, could be a tune-up. But the easiest thing in my opinion first to do is a tune-up, probably also the most cost effective and the easiest to do. So that's where I'm at now. I probably could have started with this because it definitely needed it. But in this case, with my car, it also needed new injectors at that time too. So yeah, it's a horse apiece. So now I'm going to get that rotor out of there. As I imagine, he doesn't look the best either. Should just pull right off. There we go. Yep. That is really chewed up. See if I can get the camera to focus. Can you see how chewed up that is? It's been arcing. Bad connections. Very worn out. Time for a new one. And real quick, I thought I'd give you a close-up of this distributor cap. Just look at how corroded that number 2 cylinder, or number 2 cap is. Right here. Just really poor shape. Alright, here's our new cap and our new rotor. Definitely one thing to consider when you're getting this stuff. Definitely want to get one with brass caps. Just anything else, you know, anything other than brass is just a waste of time. Still doesn't mean you can't put any dielectric grease on there. You still got to put that on, but if it ain't brass, throw it out or get the other one. And here's our new rotor, and then also it has a brass tip on the end. So very important. Make sure it's brass. All right, now the new distributor cap and rotor is on. One thing I just looked around my shop for and couldn't freaking find anywhere was my dielectric grease. Now, here again, exactly what I was just talking about. You don't have dielectric grease? Get some. Make the special run to the auto parts store and get it, because you saw what can happen and it was making this car run like garbage. So, even though I don't have some, I'm gonna go get it. So just keep that in mind. Dielectric grease is your friend. Just got back from my local Napa store. pick me up some dielectric grease, but ended up, I don't even really need this anyway, because I remembered where I put my other ones, so never really hurts to have, I guess, a couple extra. Anyway, we got the dielectric grease, and I took the new spark plugs out of their packaging, and they look pretty. And I took out my feeler gauge here. For your Jeep Cherokee, you want them to be 0.035, so that's actually what I got it set to. Nice little feature on this one. There's so many of them in this particular set that actually has a 0.035. You don't actually have to take a bunch together to make 0.035. And I just make sure every single one of these were gapped. And a couple of these were actually too large, so I just kind of I just put my weight on them and pushed them down a little bit. And then if they were a little bit out of spec or too small of a gap, I used my pliers and I just kind of pulled the grounding strap back just ever so slightly. So now each one of these is now perfectly gapped. I can run that in between there just right. So about 0.035. So that's good enough for me. Now the next thing we're going to do is put the spark plugs in. And you definitely want to use an anti-seize. And in this case, the absolute freaking best to use is a copper-based. So that's what we have here. Copper-based. And we're just going to give a little bit of a coating on the threads. So that way they'll have a proper ground path to the head. Okay, we got all the spark plugs in place now. All tightened down. I actually had to repair this spark plug wire holder. Kind of accidentally cracked it. So, nothing that a good old-fashioned little tube of super glue can't fix. So anyway, over here on the top of the hood of the Gremlin, got the old spark plug wires and the new ones. And I just lined up next to each other. So it goes from 1 all the way to 6. And I just took the lengths based on what the old ones were, and I just set them down. So now I know what each one is, 1 through 6. And for some odd reason, get that out of the way, give me an extra one. It almost looks like a coil wire. Maybe a different 4-liter had a longer one. I don't know. But either way, I got an extra one there, so I'll just, I guess, throw that in the back of the car for some odd reason for a rainy day. Anyway, we're going to put these all in, and we're going to make sure we put dielectric grease on them and put them in the correct firing order, which is 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. Hopefully you knew that. If you didn't, actually, I can just show you where to look on your intake manifold. There you go, 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. In case you needed help, remember that. And this is the first time I've ever seen a distributor cap not labeled where spark plug number 1 goes, or spark plug wire number 1. Usually there's a little number 1, but I tell you what, I know where number 1 is because it's just usually where they always are on the inline 6, and that's always this one right here, this little guy. That's always number 1, and if it's not, you can laugh at me later when the car starts and doesn't start. Either way, you can laugh at me then if it's not right. So anyway, we're gonna go put these on. 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. And the coil here goes down to the coil right there. So we're going to do that. And then after all that's taken care of, put it all back together and see how she runs. So like I said earlier, I had found my old tube of silicone grease. But it was probably time for a new one because this one's getting pretty well used up. But in fact, the cap is even gone. Doesn't even have a cap anymore, so that's cool. Anyway, what we're going to do is each and every one of these spark plug wires is getting a glob of dielectric grease, just like this. I take them and I just squeeze it in there. just like that. It's messy, but just throw it in there, and whatever gloops out, then just I'll clean it up with a rag. So to the other side here. Okay, just like that. Now we'll put it on. Click. There we go. All right, and that's the coil. That's number one. Now we'll do the same thing for all the other ones. And like I said, we're going to go around the clock starting at 1. Then we'll go to 5, 3, 6, 2, 4, and so on. Okay, we got all the spark plug wires put on. I utilized the original factory wire holders. And it might not be in the exact original spot, but I just put them in the orientation that made the most sense to me. So that's all that matters. Now we're going to put everything back together, and we'll see how she runs. All right, let's put everything back together like this. That's better. All right, now let's try to start it. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of American Made Classics. Jeep is running pretty gosh darn good. It seemed to work pretty well. It's exactly what it needed, as I figured. So that's going to take care of this particular issue. As I see now, there's antifreeze spraying up all over the place from the freaking fan. So that's just wonderful. So probably next thing I'll be chasing at is figuring out why this thing has a coolant leak and spraying it all over the place. But for now, that's going to do it. If you want, check out my other videos on Jeep or related stuff, AMC related stuff, all that related stuff. You get what I'm trying to say. Until next time, thanks for watching.